The next few parts that we're going to be going through here is just really what happens with genetics, with specifically X and Y chromosomes. So there's a couple key facts here that we know. So we know that women have XX chromosomes and men have XY chromosomes. You can tell the difference of them just from looking at them. So whenever a male is born, they have to get the Y chromosome, and it has to come from the male. But if it's a daughter born, he has to pass his X chromosome. Yep. Okay, so really key thing here is, of course, this XX chromosome, this XY chromosome. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be XY, not YX. So for a Y chromosome to be passed along, it has to come from the male. What the heck? Why is this important? When we look at certain things that get passed on genetically, if it is something that is specific to the men of the family, it has to come from the Y chromosome. If it's something that, if it's a dominant trait that comes from X chromosomes, for example, both would have to have. Or for a recessive gene to show, again, both parents have to pass on the recessive gene. So like, what does this mean? Well, we're able to use this fact, these key things here. We're able to use this Y chromosome stuff to trace back genetic history and medical history. So this is an example. This comes directly from an exam question to give you an idea here. So we see red-green color blindness is a really common thing that gets passed along through males. And so what we kind of have here is we have what we have here is we have a family history. This is someone's family tree, just kind of shown some stuff. So the people who are colorblind have the black part filled in. The people who are not colorblind are blank. The males are the boxes and the females are the circles. So what ends up happening here, we're looking at, well, how the heck does this happen? You know, how are we able to pass this stuff on? If you're looking at number 10, for example, how did this person get this? It makes no sense to me that they were able to get this because their parents didn't get it. Their grandparents didn't get it. It's weird. So we have to look in family history. We can say, oh, this person's uncle seems to have it. So we've labeled these people. And basically, if these two people were to have a daughter, we want to look at, well, what would the genotype be? So basically, there's a couple things here. So this red-green color line, you've seen this X and then the big X and the B, that represents, it has to come on an X chromosome. So this is saying that, hey, this is an X chromosome and there's a little B up there, which means it's recessive. So we know that when you're colorblind, it is a recessive gene here. So basically, we know that this mom had to have been this as their allele for it. They had to be heterozygous, had to have a dominant and a non-dominant and a recessive gene for it. Because over here, we have a male who has this, right? We have a male who has this. All of your X chromosomes have to have a recessive trait in order to get it. Because it's a male, he's passing on his Y chromosome to this person here. Which means the only X chromosome he gets is from his mother. And in this case, he got the recessive part of it. So what we want to do is we want to try and figure out, okay, if these two people, 7 and 8, have another baby, what's their genotype going to be, and that they're unaffected. So we will end up taking a look at this. I will say this, the answer itself is not A, because the father does not have that XB to donate. The only X chromosome this father has is, again, this recessive one here, because he only has one X chromosome. So these are the types of questions we'll look at. We're not going to actually answer this just yet. We'll probably come back to this tomorrow instead. Again, we'll look at a couple different questions here. We should be able to actually answer this one, though. So in this one here, we want to know what's the genotype of this person. So we want to use the clues that we have available to be able to answer that. And the first thing is, what gender are they? Female. It's a female. And if they're female, they have to have 2 X chromosomes. So instantly out of the run and out of the run. So that's one piece of information we have. We know they're female, and we also know that they are colorblind. So if they are colorblind, and it's a recessive gene, both of these genes have to be recessive. Both X chromosomes have to be recessive, right? So in this case, our answer here would be B as an example. So these are the types of questions we'll end up going through. They're very advanced questions. But this is the type of stuff that we're able to do, that professionals are able to do to track this down. So let's start going into this. It's a very, very short section. So starting off here, we have genetic recombination. And let's try and cut back on the notes here. I don't think you actually need this first part. Yeah, you don't need the first part, but basically we know that there's new combinations of genes that happen through that crossing over. And if you remember, that's where your DNA touches over. It touches and it trades. So you don't need to fully, like, as long as you know that, when crossing over is the trading, you're fine there. But basically, these combinations of genes, we can figure this out using something called 2n, where n's the number of chromosome pairs. So if I have 2 chromosome pairs, it's 2 to the power 2, it's 4. So any male gamete can fertilize any female one. So our combinations then are 2n times 2n. Again, we'll break this down. We're going to step away from the math and show you a little bit more of what this means in a second. Let's take a step away from the math and go to, like, what the heck does all this stuff mean? So just take a look at this this picture down here. This is what this means. All of this stuff. Basically, what I have here is I have one piece of DNA. It's crossed over, yada yada. It goes under meiosis 1. It goes under meiosis 2, and I eventually end up with 4 different potential options. So all this is really saying is that I have 4 different genes here, 2 A's and 2 B's, and it can be split up after you go through meiosis into 4 different possible combinations. This is the fancy way of saying that. So when we link our genes, the genes are located close to each other on the same chromosome, are said to be linked. So when they are close to each other, they're linked. These usually travel together when we form these gametes. This is one of the few, there's more, but one of the few exceptions to Mendel's law. Again, we'll end up making a little bit more sense of this later. So I want to hone in on this first point. Genes that are located close to each other on the same chromosome are said to be linked. So if I have a chromosome that goes like, it goes like this. If I have one gene here, one gene here, they're very closely linked. Maybe this is one for like eye color and eye shape. Maybe they're very linked. But if I have one about eye color and I don't know, foot size, those are so far apart, they're not linked. Okay, what the heck does this mean? Again, these are just random examples. This isn't actually how it works. But if I go to, remember those fruit flies? If I look at fruit flies here, this right here, like, let's imagine I take these chromosomes, I read it out, I lay it flat just in a straight line. That's what all of this stuff is here. And if I do it, okay, there's a yellow body color, there's a white eye color, and then there's a red eye color. I can see that how far apart all of these things are. The closer they are together, the more closer they're linked. Additionally, crossing over happens more commonly when the genes are farther apart. When the genes are farther apart. So what this means is that yellow body color and red eye color, they are more likely to cross over than white eye color is with any one of these, because they are farther apart. So once you guys finish with this, like, that's it. So 10.3 is very small. 10.2 is kind of all of it. If you guys have it, you have about 10 minutes left here. You'll be able to finish up your essentials. Those are not for marks. You do not need to hand those in. Those are for you. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll end up having just a quiz on this stuff. It'll be like the normal ones before we keep moving on. The rest of the course from this point on, with the exception of one thing, is really genetics. We're going to be spending the next 2 weeks on genes and how stuff passes on. Understanding the XY chromosome stuff, which we'll look more at tomorrow. Understanding how to do Plunkett squares are going to be vital for what we're going to be doing here. Those are going to be very, very important. They serve as a foundation.